What's going on, guys? Kevin Jones here, founder of OneClaw, a developer relations engineer at Edge and Node. Very excited. We're going to live stream today and talk a little bit about AI. We're going to be doing a little bit of Ask Me Anything, a little bit industry update, maybe talk a little bit about my trip to San Francisco at the AI Engineers World Fair. And more importantly, I'm very excited to bring on Karim. Karim is helping with business development and kind of my liaison in San Francisco. And he's been a great community leader to help onboard some new developers and users in San Francisco. So without further ado, Karim, welcome. How are you?
Hi. Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, nice to be back home in Texas, but already missing the Bay. I know we got to catch up, and that was great. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was really good to see you. Yeah, so maybe for people who aren't familiar with you, you could give like a brief intro about yourself and talk about what you're working on and what you're focused on.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi, everyone. My name is Kareem. And as Kevin said, I am sort of the boots on ground here for OneClaw in San Francisco, trying to help onboard new developers, trying to help people understand what is the value and the purpose of OneClaw in our current time and day. I'd say I position myself more as a developer as well. I'm developing my own projects, a lot of agentic multi-agent orchestration work, trying to help people understand how simple agentic development can actually be and how it's not as scary as it seems, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit on what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, you showed me some of the stuff that you've been working on, and it's quite interesting. The visual stuff that you're working on is really cool. I'm excited for when you unveil that. I
Coming
think
soon.
there's now, yeah, coming soon. We're gonna do a big splash about that for sure. No, that's great. And so you live in the Bay Area, and you're kind of out at the events in San Francisco, and you're like in it, right? I think I met you actually at the house in San Francisco.
Yeah, the House of Web
Yeah,
3.
what's your thoughts on the industry like right now? It feels very like when I was there, it was very vibrant. Like there's just a lot of energy right now. Are you feeling the same way?
Well, I think the movement of AI and AI agents is like it's just moving so fast. Like, you go to sleep knowing one thing, you wake up in the morning and the whole narrative has changed. It's a really quick moving industry. And I'd say like I attend like 2 to 3 events a week, and I noticed that with each week, the narrative shifts drastically. Meaning, like, one week everyone can be talking about like X402 and like agentic payments, and then the other week people start talking about multi-agent orchestration, like organization. Like it just shifts really drastically. But I think everyone is really passionate. Everyone is sort of keeping up with the flow, and I'm just really interested to see where the value is going to truly like end up in like the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. It feels like this week was all about, at least when I was at the World's Fair, there was a lot of agent harness stuff, evals, a lot of talk about, yeah, just in general, like scalability and runtime for agents. Yeah, so it's been interesting to watch the priority shift. It used to be like a big deal, like when MCP came out, and now it's like we're just way far beyond that. And it
Yeah.
seems like just yesterday, I think it was only a year ago, MCP came out actually. And yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. So yeah, what I know you had kind of
Yeah.
prepared some questions or had some ideas. What did you want
Yeah,
to
I,
chat
I
about?
was, of course, I wanted to ask you first. Like, I unfortunately wasn't able to make the AI engineering summit that was in SF, like the last 2, 3 days. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think was like, in your eyes, what was the most like, I'd say, valuable thing that you've seen people working on?
Yeah, for sure. What I liked about the World's Fair is there was a lot of technical talks. There was actually just a lot of just talks in general, not just technical, like also like business talk. There was something like some crazy amount of speakers. And so that was quite interesting to be able to kind of like pick through a huge catalog of stuff. There was even a couple times where I didn't have enough time to go between, sessions because, there's something good going on. So yeah, I was really impressed with the technical content and yeah, just the amount of companies that are actually working in the space. And there was also like an area up at the very top. I don't think a lot of people knew it was there, kind of right next to where the keynote section was.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of like smaller kind of startups that were kind of like showing off what they were working on. And it just, yeah, again, I think it's just like everyone is trying to build something quite interesting. I was really impressed with the stuff that Amazon's working on. They had I saw a talk from AWS about Strands, which is a framework for building agents, and
Mhm.
they have this new concept, which is like almost like a self healing or a self growing agent where it can create its own tools on the fly, which I thought was really really cool. So you could literally just give it like a bare bones kind of thing and start chatting with it, and it will decide like what it needs to build. You know, if it needs to do some complex math, you know, it's going to create a tool for that. If it's going to, you know, need to go out and fetch, you know, some data from a SQL database, it's going to create a tool for that on the fly, which I thought was really, really cool. It's kind of like organic AI agents, right? Um, yeah, and then of course, you know, I think there was some, you know, Circle was there, which I thought
Mhm.
was really great. You know, we had a chance to catch up with the Circle team and see all the stuff they're working on, and you know, all the stuff they're working on is really, really great. Being able to provide, yeah, USDC and all this kind of like tooling around agents, and so it was cool to see that at an AI conference, whereas like crypto and AI aren't always like best friends. So
Yeah, it's a little iffy recently. I
yeah,
realize, especially in San Francisco, I don't know, people seem to be scared of the word crypto, especially like in the AI intersection of it. It's a little
yeah.
iffy. So, you know, I think out of my experience going to all of these like sort of big events, I was at Cursor Compile, I think a week or two ago. And a week or two before that, I was at the Canopy Festival, which is like by Founders Inc. And
Hmm.
I realized that there are a lot of startups right now, a lot of people building projects that seem to just be a really well presented UI plugged into an LLM. And they present it as something, you know, big and huge and revolutionary. At the AI, like the engineering summit, would you say you've seen like truly, you know, what majority of the project that you've seen were like truly like complex and well built and bring true value? And like what percent of it was just, I don't know, a good looking UI plugged into LLM?
Yeah, or you're saying like the rappers that are just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I think people, yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of innovation. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of companies that have like pivoted to AI. You know, they started out as just like a traditional Web 2 kind of application, and then they're kind of pivoting to AI. And that's mostly for, you know, obvious reasons. Like that's where all the interest is.
Mhm.
Um, so there's some companies out there that are like claiming, you know, AI first, whatever database or AI first this, you know. But I think the newer companies that are innovating on AI are yeah, like quite interesting. Companies like Langfuse, right, which is
Yeah.
like an open source framework that's really cool stuff. Langchain, you know,
Mhm.
they're like an OG, still super. You have a huge community. They were there, you know. So yeah, there's definitely interesting. AWS is probably another, like I said, another good example of they're really dipping their toes into the agent stuff and yeah, building some interesting tools. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think there's stuff there. You do have to look for it. You know, it was a little smaller actually. The expo hall was a little smaller than I expected, especially just being in Google Cloud, you know, which is a lot bigger. So this was a smaller conference, I would say, compared to something like Google Cloud or like AWS reInvent. But there was still some quality projects there for sure.
Nice. No, that's really cool. And I wish I was there. Um, Let me ask you a little bit about OneClaw. I want to get your take on a couple things. So
Mhm.
let's go back to the very beginning when you were just coming out with the idea, coming out with the just started building it out. What was a specific moment or like incident that made you go like someone has to build this? You know, like what was that moment for you like?
Yeah, yeah. So I was actually working on another little side project of mine called Spritz, which is still a thing, by the way. You know, we have like 2,000 users, and it's a decentralized chat application. So you can go to app.spritz.chat and check it out. And you can connect a wallet and you can chat from wallet to wallet. So if a Solana user wants to message a Ethereum user, you guys can both authenticate and connect and be friends, and you can send messages. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to give every user in Spritz its own dedicated personal assistant, like AI agent. And I started to realize that this is just not an easy thing to do. When you probably need to give the AI agent, well, first of all, you probably, I wanted the agent to be able to send value as well, like send money, send transactions.
Yeah.
And I also wanted the agent to be able to utilize the user's API keys, right? So like if they wanted to connect to their Google, account, or if they wanted to connect to Notion or something, and I started to realize that like a lot of the products out there already were not really built for AI. They're like older Web 2 stuff that is, you're going to have to duct tape a little bit together because, they're not built for, multi-tenant kind of multi-agent kind of systems like what I was trying to build. And then on top of that, just as a user, I was constantly having to like, um, figure out ways to hide my env file from my AI editor. First it was like, okay, well, I guess I need to like encrypt the env and make sure it's encrypted. And then it was like, well, every time I have to do that, I got to go over to the terminal and type in a
Yeah.
command to like open it up and get access to my key or whatever. And it's just bad developer experience. So I was like, well, why don't I just build an MCP and a vault? And I started just building all this stuff that I was just using as a user, like to solve my particular problem and to solve the problem for Spritz. And then it kind of cascaded into like, well, this is just a huge undertaking, and it's an application in itself,
Mhm.
right? And then pairing that with all the security stuff that we do, which is the prompt injection, and I started to see all these hacks, online. People were getting their private keys stolen and API keys and all that. I'm like, well, that's a whole nother thing. So we can kind of wrap these things together into what OneClaw is, right? It's the vault, the shroud, and the intents for signing. So we took all that together, smashed it together, and I built, the entire platform in, a period of like 2 months. And yeah, there it is. That's the birth of OneClaw.
No, it's a really interesting story. You know,
Yeah.
so you've built so much, and it works. Honestly, I use it on a day-to-day basis. It's a staple in my development workflow now. It's something I sort of can't live without because I have all of my secrets and all of my sensitive information, I guess, in one vault. So I wanted to ask again, after building out so much of OneClaw, is there any sort of attack that OneClaw doesn't catch yet? Is there anything that you want to build towards so OneClaw will be able to catch in the future?
Well, I think it's the surface, the attack surface for LLMs is constantly evolving, right?
Mhm.
An example would be, it started out like prompt injection was just like plain text, and you would have to like check for that stuff, right? Just using like regular, just ASCII characters or whatever. Then people started like obfuscating like information in like hex data or binary data, or like, different ways of encoding that data. Then like someone got hacked with Morse code. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Morse code, someone got hacked with Morse code, which is just amazing. And it's obviously horrible that the person got hacked for like 160K or something,
Wow.
but it was pretty brilliant of this user to figure that out. So that's just in security in general. Like it's a constant moving attack surface. So we're basically constantly watching for new stuff and trying to figure out ways to catch that internally inside of Shroud. So I wouldn't say that OneCloud is obviously not going to protect you against everything because there might be some 0 day out there, right? I think supply chain attacks is probably one of the next kind of focuses. So
Mhm.
for anyone who doesn't know what that means, but it's basically like most software has a lot of dependencies, right? So like we at OneCloud, we scan this stuff daily, and we look for like stuff in the source code itself that might look malicious, and we try to make sure there's no issues. Like if we find some kind of 0 day kind of like supply attack, we'll patch it immediately. But I think that might be something that we're going to pursue in the future, is like having kind of like an AI agent that is sitting next to your infrastructure, that is constantly watching for this kind of stuff. So it's almost like red team, AI agent, red team monitoring for all the supply chain attack stuff. And so, yeah, we're going to start thinking about that a little bit. What else? I think we started working with some other players that are doing some almost like antivirus type stuff for AI. So we're going to try to partner with companies like that to be able to try to fingerprint stuff and identify like maybe potential threats earlier on in the kind of life cycle. So that might be another avenue that we go down eventually.
Wow, no, that's I understand that the field is evolving, like, endlessly. I think every day you're going to wake up to like a new sort of attack, a new sort of everything. So yeah, I agree with that part. Like, sort of, we have to be prepared for anything. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So agents on one claw also have the ability to send transactions, right? They have the ability to transact on crypto. They have the ability to send payments, to interact with contracts. Um, the word autonomous agents in crypto sounds a little bit scary to some people. Like, how much do you want to allow your agent to be able to do on chain? Where would you set the limits? Where would you put the constraints for an agent holding your funds?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. So, like for an example, like ampersand, which is Edge and Node's X402 kind of payment layer stuff that we built there, uses smart accounts where you can kind of the idea of a smart account is it's a smart contract, and it has like a module that kind of extends its functionality, and so you can kind of do some like multi-sig like operations there, which are quite interesting. We don't do that in OneClaw. We are more of a key custody platform, so we do it all through like regular transactions, and we do it through like API key. So we basically give every unique agent an API key, and then that API key is scoped, right, to only be able to send within the limits. So it could be that it's only allowed to send, one ETH on base to Vitalik.eth, right?
Mhm.
And then if it tries to do anything outside of there, then it's going to fail. And the thing is that it doesn't actually have a private key, the agent. It just has an API key. And so it's just proving what it can use, and then we execute that transaction inside of the trusted execution environment. So the benefit there is that the key, the actual physical key, the agent never needs, right? It's
Mhm.
stored away, locked away in the HSM. It's used for like a second to do the signature in the trusted execution environment, which is also physical hardware that can't be hacked. So the key never leaves the hardware, right? So that's the value of OneClaw, is that, so I think that is the most important way to do it. I think it could be paired with logic and a smart contract, right? I think it could be a combination of like key custody. Again, I don't think the agent ever needs to see the key. The agent should have role-based access that you can do whatever kind of control you want from there. Right?
I think allowing agents to sort of uh, do things on the fly, like, sort of, I really love the idea how one claw works, where it only uses your sort of secrets and private information during runtime, like at the moment it needs it. I think a lot of projects and a lot of startups are currently pivoting to that sort of direction, where they want agents to do things on the fly rather than having it stored somewhere and having it, like, picked out of there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's actually really interesting. So if you were to personally send out an agent to the blockchain, right? You give it your funds, you give it, um, how much would you give it? That's sort of the next question. Like, how much freedom would you give an autonomous agent on chain?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's obviously if we're talking about with the current kind of, I mean, I'm pretty confident with OneClaw, that I can give it a pretty good hefty, like I could load a private key with, probably 10 grand and feel pretty comfortable knowing that it's not going to get hacked, right? Would I want an AI agent to take 10K and like go play around on Uniswap or like try to do some DeFi stuff? That's probably not for me. I'm not big into the whole agentic DeFi stuff, but I think it is interesting. And I could see where you need to do like really high value swaps at a time, especially if you're like have, let's just say you have, I don't know, 100 ETH, and you want to be able to do that securely without ever like revealing the actual private key. Well, then yeah, I would feel pretty comfortable in being able to do that just using kind of a key that's stored in OneClaw, right? Because I can kind of guarantee that it's never going to make its way to the LLM or something like that, and I would let the agent do it. But yeah, I think right now I typically only give the agents very small amounts, like in the hundreds of dollars range, and it's mostly just because I pay for all my LLM insurance over stablecoins, so over X402. So I kind of just constantly am feeding it some money. But I think in the realm of like hundreds of dollars is probably my comfort range, just for like it sitting around idle and operating. But because I have the monitoring and stuff set up with OneClaw, it's actually pretty easy to know what's going on. And we also have a mobile app too that I've been working on, which the mobile app's quite interesting because you can set it up with alerts to where it will let you know if you kind of go over a certain threshold, and you'll actually get like an approval kind of screen. I don't know if you can see this, probably doesn't want to load properly, but to actually
Wow.
sign it, and you can sign it with a pass key. So the wallet's the infrastructure is there to know exactly what your agent's doing and setting up some restrictions, and then it's really like human in the loop at that point, right? And so that's quite interesting. Another kind of narrative would be just like giving an agent access to the key to use it to spend it, but you're actually just approving large transactions on your phone, right? And I think that's the future.
So yeah, adding a human into the loop in a way. It's really,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that's smart. That's a smarter approach than giving it fully like autonomous sort of like rails to go against. So adding the human to a loop, giving the human more control. That's, I think, the smarter play. I agree with that.
Yep.
I also wanted to ask a quick question about where the value will lie in agentic payments in crypto. So like the stack is sort of settling into like trust and authorization. So like at the top you have Visa, Circle, Google, sort of like building the trust, like saying this agent is who he claims to be, right? And at the bottom you have X402, stable coins, the sort of crypto settlement layer. So where do you think? Well, the layer that owns identity and trust, they're the ones who usually capture the economics. So does the neutral settlement layer actually like capture value here, or does crypto end up like, is it going to end up as like sort of the invisible plumbing that everyone uses and lose sort of the economic value of agentic payments?
I think the later, the crypto obviously as a staple and as a technology is here to stay. I think for like the engineers in the room and the companies, it's kind of like when maybe I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but like when Docker came out, right? Like I don't know if you remember when Docker came out, it was a real big deal, right? And then everyone started kind of building all these things on top, and then eventually people started building services that were all Docker based, and then the user just didn't even know they were using Docker. So I guess I equate it into the similar story with crypto.
Mhm.
Is like large companies, large banks, everyone is going to use crypto, because why would you like use a bank that takes 3 days to settle? You know what I mean? Or why would you use a credit card that has a chance of getting declined because some system's down, right? The reason why crypto exists is for decentralization and availability. Like Ethereum's never gone down because it's a decentralized network. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of value in that, and the time, time to settle.
Mhm.
So I think in the future, yeah, everything's going to be run on crypto rails, and the user's not going to know. I just built an app the other day just as like a test on top of OneClaw, and I was able to completely hide away anything with crypto. Just they connect with OneClaw. Now we have a full sign-in flow, so you can connect with OneClaw essentially, like using OAuth, and you have a wallet, with an API key, and you have a policy and a vault and all this stuff. So you don't really need like to tell users that they're using crypto anymore. They just on ramp, pay some funds, like maybe Apple Pay, put it into a wallet sitting in OneClaw, and yeah, that's the beauty of it. Is it's just using API keys and intents, right? Intent-based stuff.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that take. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because I mean, it sounds a little bit scary to have crypto just like fall into this invisible hole of just becoming infrastructure, and nobody really knows like what's going on in the background, and it's going to lose its economic value because of that. But I don't know. It's really interesting to see how it's going to play out. And one more question I have on sort of the agentic payment layer, the demand. So right now, if you compare the total volume of like agentic payments going on chain to total stablecoin volume, the gap is pretty significant. So what is sort of going to be that like unlock that flips this from, well, flips agentic payments from just built it and waiting for complete adoption to organic, like non-crypto native usage? And when is that going to happen? When do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think like some of the stuff that I've found quite interesting, we're working with the Circle team. We're gonna be one of the Circle Alliance partners in the Circle Alliance program, and what that means is that we're going to be adopting pretty much all the tech that the entire tech stack that they have. Right now, of course, we support Arc testnet, and we support USDC transfers obviously on every chain. We have like 109 EVM chains.
Mhm.
But what we're trying to work on next is the paymaster settings inside of Circle, which allows you to pay for your gas with USDC,
Yeah.
which is really quite interesting. So you can just use just USDC, which I think would make it more available and more useful. We're also going to add like the nano payment stuff, which they're working on, which allows you to do like micro payments, which could help. Agents need to pay for things that are very, very, very inexpensive, right? So versus API calls, right? So I think that'll be a huge unlock for scalability. So yeah, that, and then we also saw like the on the other spectrum of that, we have the open USDC, or what's it called? I forget what it's called. It's the one that Stripe just came out with the new standard.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. Anyways, but stable coins are, I mean, stable coins add more um, dollars into the system, which help the economy in this weird way. Like the more dollars you have, and so I think that was one of the things. Even like Trump and like some of the people that are like advocating for crypto is it's going to help the entire economy if users have more access to stable coins. It also will help the world if people have more access to stable coins. Like people need dollars all throughout the world. So if there's a way we can just have more stable coins and give options for people, I think that's good. So we're getting there. And I'm all for the stablecoin stuff. I've always said that stablecoins is like the best use case actually of crypto,
Yeah.
which obviously, I love crypto, and I think ETH and Bitcoin and all that stuff are great. But in the real world, you need to pay for stuff in dollars. But people always say like, oh, can I buy something with Bitcoin? And it's like, well, you don't really want to spend your Bitcoin. You want to spend your dollars. So I think, yeah, we're definitely shifting towards a stable coin focused market.
Mhm.
And as all of these big companies and banks start operating with stable coins, it's just going to keep growing the market even more.
No, I completely agree. It's going to be really interesting if we're going to have this sort of like a part 2 of this live stream, or like a part, I don't know which
Yeah.
number, live stream, like in a couple of years, say like in 1 or 2 or like 3 years. It's really interesting to see how this the results that we're talking about right now, how it's really going to unfold. I think maybe the whole world's going to adopt stable coins. We're all going to be paying, I don't know, in Target with stable coins. So it's really interesting to see. We're discussing topics right now that are going to we're gonna get the answers to those topics like really, really, really quickly, really, really soon. So really interesting to see how
Yeah.
it's all gonna unfold.
Yeah. I think we're like, halfway through the year. I think the next 6 months are going to be on the up for a lot of stuff. Crypto,
Mhm.
I mean, the stock market's doing great right now, but I think for crypto, it's going to be good. For AI, it's going to be good. Yeah, let's go. We're definitely going to hop back on. I mean, we'll probably do more sessions and be able to look back on this, and we'll be happy to say we were right.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see how accurate we were.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's Well, it's a lot of information for today. We're going to get onto
Yeah,
this at another time. Definitely understand how accurate we were, as I said. And yeah,
awesome.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Karim, how can people find you if they wanted to reach out to you? Is it X your best way to
Yes,
contact
I
you?
have. I think I'm most active on X at Karim Baba SF. There, that's my
Awesome, cool.
user. Yeah, feel
Very
free
cool.
to reach out to me, to DM me. I'm always open and most active on X, as I said.
Awesome, cool. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Yeah, we're going to start trying to do these more often, at least weekly. We're doing some kind of like live coding sessions, interviews. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you guys next time. See ya.